Parenting is hard. No matter how you frame it, having and raising a child is difficult. But what about parenting a child with intellectual or emotional disabilities? I'd like to discuss why it's its own type of difficult and why supports are a necessity and not optional or a luxury. Welcome to Unpopular Opinion. Now, this video may make you feel uncomfortable or maybe even defensive, and while that is not the purpose of the video, these topics are very personal. This video is personal to me because I am a parent of two boys with special needs. I plan to share statistical and specialized knowledge to support the thoughts and feelings expressed in this video. When I say specialized knowledge, it's because I have 6+ years experience working with adults, adolescents, and children in behavioral and mental health. Among these 10,800 hours of experience and work, I have provided services and resources to help with issues such as homelessness, employment, life skills, coping skills, needing case management, needing care coordination, and addiction. Now, I'm not trying to boast or claim credit for what I do. I just want to emphasize the need to talk about this because of what I have experienced and seen. Some individuals fear how to approach children or adults with disabilities. Fear is the lack of knowledge and understanding. So if I can help you learn the knowledge and understand how you can help, that fear can become a strength for you and your family and the people you care around you. Now, to understand what a disability is, we need to first understand what does a regular child, sorry, I'm using quotations, regular child. Now, the term regular kind of is a stereotype. It doesn't really help figure out what a child actually is working with because any child can be developing in a different way, even if they had a disability or not. So the word is called typical or typical development. Now, when you hear that phrase, you may be unsure of what exactly it means. When a child is developing throughout their life, they hit certain milestones and show the pace that they are growing at. Most of these milestones are under social, emotional, gross motor, which is the big muscles, and then fine motor, which is the little muscles, and then language or speech. These milestones are loosely based on chronological age, and there are several different developmental charts that show the progress in which these milestones are usually reached. Now, a typical developing child would perform one or more of these milestones close to or at the average of when all the other childs perform this milestone. An example would be a 2.5 to 3-year-old would be engaging in pretend play, such as imagining being an astronaut or a doctor or a cook with themselves or with peers. While a child with social or mental cognitive disabilities may not reach this milestone till months or maybe even years after. Now, what is a disability and why do children have disabilities? Now, generally there are 3 different categories of disabilities. There's physical, neurodevelopmental, and emotional. Now, IDEA, or the Intellectual Disability of Education Act, has a very detailed list of the physical and neurodevelopmental disabilities that affect children, while the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration has a detailed list of emotional and behavioral disabilities. Now, disabilities can originate from birth, physical accidents, or adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs. Now, ACEs are categorized as abuse, neglect, and household dysfunction. Now, abuse entails physical, emotional, and sexual harm. Neglect entails physical and emotional harm. Household dysfunction entails mental illness of a family member living in the home, incarcerated family member or members, violence against the mother, substance abuse, divorce, and homelessness. Now, a recent study showed that 64% of the participants had at least one ACE, or adverse childhood experience, and that an increased amount of ACEs can lead to more risk behavior. Now, this risk behavior includes the lack of physical activity, smoking, alcoholism, drug use, and missed work. Because of these behaviors, physical and mental consequences that follow are obesity, diabetes, depression, suicide attempts or suicidal thoughts, STDs, heart disease, cancer, stroke, COPD, and broken bones and other injuries. Now, this doesn't mean if they have a disability they're going to have these things. It's that they're more likely because the lack of support and understanding they have because of the disability that leads to these problem behaviors or things that happen to them. Now, a child with disability, their life isn't all doom and gloom. There are many organizations, nonprofits, and support groups and resources that provide early intervention, social and life skills training, medical supports, and employment support. However, the biggest aid to a child with a disability is caring and supportive peers their age. For this to be possible, they need to understand how to be caring and supportive to those that have a disability and to understand what they need to do. They need to be taught and role modeled by their parents and their caregivers. Now, you may have some questions when it comes to this whole idea of people around you and children having disabilities. You may ask, why don't these parents reach out to their friends, family, or close associates? Well, because they may have already tried, or they don't have family or close friends near them. Some needs required by children with disabilities can be very time-consuming and take a lot of energy. There are some families and friends that don't want to help, cannot help, don't see the disability, or think the disability is made up. Parents are constantly trying to balance what's best for their children and finding self-care for themselves, or time to provide self-care for themselves. Now, what's important to understand for a parent and a child with disabilities is that things aren't going to go the way that maybe the parent thought they would. Because when they have a child with disabilities, whether it happens at birth or a physical accident or later, it kind of changes their whole perspective of what their life would be and what they thought their child's life would be. It's an actual grieving process because it's hard for the parent to be able to understand what they need to do next to provide what's best for the child, not what's best for what the parent envisioned. And it can be really hard and distressing. And so that's why sometimes it's hard to reach out, because they're having that process of understanding what to do. Now, you might say, why do I need to reach out? I've invited them and their child to activities, but they decline. Why should I keep inviting them when they say no? Well, before you assume they think you're a bad influence on their child, or they just don't like you, your invite, while appreciated, may not be in the best interest of their child or children. Let's say you invite a 6-year-old child with autism to your 7-year-old son's birthday party at Chuck E. Cheese. While you are thinking, there are games, there's food, prizes, rides, and tons of friends. Why wouldn't they come? Now, the parent says no because the child has a sensory issue, especially with noise. The parent knows that if the child is overwhelmed with noises, he may sit, cover his ears, and scream. While you may think this is just behavior of being disobedient, the parent knows it's the child's way of communicating they don't feel comfortable or safe. Their child may find communicating verbally very difficult and still have not developed how to verbalize their feelings. And sometimes the idea of taking a child in a new environment while there may be an outburst can be overwhelming to the parent and for the own child's sake. The parent will decline the invitation, and this is why it's important to be aware and understanding both the child and the parent when it comes to the disability. So you may ask, okay, I kind of understand more now. What can I actually do that'll make an impact? Well, here are 4 steps to help you and your typically developing child to become a support and a friend to a child with disabilities. First, understand the child's disability. Now, you may feel you don't have time to read a whole book or an article of information, but you don't have to. There are many sites that have amazing summarized versions of different disabilities and how they affect the individual who has them and the people around them. I have several links in the description below where you can find many different types of disabilities. It's as easy as taking 30 minutes to read instead of scrolling through Facebook, watching YouTube, playing video games, checking whatever social media you're doing, and actually sitting down and looking into something that might help a person in need. Part 2, share with your family. Take time to share with your family what you've learned. Make sure to teach at the level of the person or child you're speaking with. Make sure to emphasize why you are teaching them about the disability. Be an example by role modeling good and positive behavior and what you would do when you interact with a child or anyone else with a disability. Actions speak louder than words, and that's really important and true in regarding to this part. In regards to parents, when they share good experiences or bad ones about their child with a disability, make sure to validate their feelings and show empathy. Now, I have 2 examples to kind of show maybe what are some not so good responses and actually some really bad ones to ones that will actually help support the parent feel like they're being listened to. The first response from a parent could be, "Sorry I'm late. My youngest had a really hard time going to bed because he was triggered during his nighttime routine." Now, a bad answer would be, "Oh, okay," and just moving on to the next subject, not even acknowledging it. That could have been the parent trying to reach out Even though they don't say, hey, I wish I could have help with my child. No parent's going to say that. But them opening up is them actually inviting you to be a part of the conversation. So a good answer would be, oh, that sounds difficult. Do you want to talk more about that? That helps invite the parent to open up if they want to. And if they don't, you can still offer support in ways that you can. The second scenario is like this. Sometimes I feel like a bad parent when I see my child struggle daily. Now, this is a reoccurring issue for a lot of parents with children with special needs, that we feel like we fail a lot because we don't understand how to help them sometimes. It takes a lot of patience. So a bad answer would be, oh, you're not bad, all kids struggle. That kind of minimizes what the parent is feeling and what they're trying to express in the sentence that they're sharing. A good answer would be, it is hard to see our kids struggle. You must put a lot of work in helping them to be successful. From what I've seen, you're a good parent. That shows that you're validating how they feel, and you're also validating that they are putting work into it. And if you have seen them interact with a child, you're validating that you've seen them, and you validate that they're doing good work, even though they might not feel it, but they know that you're willing to be open about how you feel about their child. Part 3, reach out to the family. This is the next step. There's many different ways to do it. Like I said, you could invite the child in some sort of activity. You can offer to be able to offer some sort of service to help the child, no matter what it is. There's a lot of ways you can reach out. You can look for different things that might be going on that benefit the child, such as an awareness run or walk, or some sort of activity that's happening that actually helps those with sensory disabilities to be able to participate because they are aware of their needs. There's a lot of different things out there. Now, as you do reach out, it's really important to remember to be aware of how they're feeling in the moment. Sometimes parents might be all right and they're doing okay, and sometimes they might feel overwhelmed. So be careful how you reach out, because it's important to understand why and where they need the support. Part number 4, invite the parents of the disabled child for self-care. Now, this is very rarely done, but sometimes can be the most important to not only improve the child, but the parent. Now, this can be done by inviting them over for dinner, or going out on a double date, or doing some sort of fun activity with just adults. You can also, if you feel comfortable enough, to invite an opportunity for you to watch their child while they can go out on the town, go on a date, go do something fun, just kind of be themselves for a little bit. By doing this, they can help the parent have more energy to be able to give more to their child, because you're providing them an opportunity to have self-care and not stress about what's happening with their child. Now, you've heard all the 4 steps. You've kind of heard what the disability can really mean to a parent and to a child. Now, it's important to share this video, but you can't just share it on Facebook wall or an Instagram feed. You actually have to do what the video suggests, because you could be that sideways scroller that could just go like this and be like, oh, that's nice, and keep on going. Make sure to be active about it. Make sure to ask others to be involved with people in their community. You don't have to make a big, huge thing happening on Facebook event to try to get people together. While that is something that can be positive, just doing little things with people around you in your community and your schools are really helpful. There are a lot of kids out there who have disabilities. In 2015, 2016, there were about 16 million individuals in the school system who have some sort of disability. That's just kids who have been diagnosed and are starting to be treated for their disabilities. A lot of times disability goes a lot unnoticed because some parents don't understand, don't know, or they don't want to accept it. So sometimes parents and even teachers have to help identify this. Now, there are a lot of different ways to do this, and it can be intimidating because you don't want to step on anyone's toes. But there are ways, as you understand different disabilities, to be supportive and understanding to offer the best services and support to these children, whether they already have the disability or maybe the parent doesn't know and they are unaware. I really hope that everyone can take steps to be able to help the children with the disabilities and their parents. It's really important and something I feel like that should be done more, because it's really understanding what needs to be done. I hope we can all do this together and be able to support one another. Thank you. That's my unpopular opinion about children with disabilities.